You're
I
doing
look forward to you dodging the question again. Go ahead.
You're doing it. You're doing it.
No, you.
So, you.
No, you.
You.
I spent the twilight of my PhD training studying serial killers, and this is what we're going to study today is the psychology behind serial killers. Thank you guys for being here. We'll study about all kinds of psychopaths. We're going to weave in some Dexters, some Shark Week, and some actual research. So thank you guys for being here, and love to see you guys take the mic. We'll be here until maybe just a little past the top of the hour to get a full hour in. So if you have questions, be sure and grab a mic and ask your questions. Do me a favor and share out the space. If you're the member of another community, you join through the Exposium today. Thank you. But if you're a member of another community, go ahead and share it out there. And if you're the member of a DM group, go ahead and share it out in the DM group and in your timeline. Again, I really, really appreciate that. But what is it that makes a serial killer? It's not really what you think. Let me make one of what I think may be one of the most alarming statements during the space today. I said this in the space yesterday. I was accusing my wife of being on crack or meth or something because she's been cleaning continuously. She won't stop for 3 days. And she said, "Oh my goodness, if I had just another 2 weeks, I'd get this place whipped into shape." And why is that? Well, because she's been gone for every weekend for 7 years, taking care of her mom and dad. She's a very dutiful daughter and a great housekeeper, great cook too, by the way. That's not a good thing sometimes, but we had beans and cornbread last night. But she seems to not be able to rest unless she has the house picked up and the house clean. I find value in that. I like to have a clean place too. But yeah, I can lay down and go to sleep and say, hey, I'll get that tomorrow. But there's this drive within her to do this. I think that you'll see once you understand what's going on with serial killers, it's not quite different than that. Housekeeping and serial killing have a lot of parallels, and we'll pick a few of those apart today. And again, this is what I did my doctoral research on is psychopathy. I use near infrared spectroscopy to do readings of people's OFC, orbital frontal cortex, and DLPFC, dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. It's OSC is inner eyebrow up. DLPFC is below your hairline, unless you don't have hair. And it's harder to find, but it's below hairline to the right. And they do different things, and they do different things in people with low psychopathy. We'll talk about that. Everyone is on the spectrum of psychopathy, although it may be really, really low. And an example of that is survival. You're going to pay attention to your own survival. So to do that, you have to shut down some areas. People really high psychopathy, and one of the tools they used to measure this was the hair PCL, the psychopathy checklist. It's a face valid assessment. It has its problems, but I think probably right now it's about the best that we have. If you can't stick somebody's head in a fMRI or something, it's really hard to carry those around in the trunk of your car. But we'll talk about some measures. But people that are high in psychopathy, they really don't look odd. Longbrain was talking about, I think, Ed Gein, and Ed was kind of an odd looking guy. There are people that they just look weird. You're like, man, I'm not going to invite that guy over to spend the night in my house or something. I'm not even going to turn my back on him in the restaurant. But you really can't tell high or low psychopathy, well, based on looks. They really are, very much. like any other fish in the sea. They just kind of swim around through life. But then they tend to strike before you can ever see it. And they also tend not to always erupt with rage. Some do, but I think most don't. There is talk about what is it, serial killer zero or whatever, the person that you'll never find because they're so normal, they just kind of blend into the wallpaper of life, and they really run on what I would call cold cognition. Very goal oriented, very unburdened by what you and I would call conscience. I mean, what is that? We'll talk a bit about that. And so from serial killers to CEOs, there's kind of a shark infested water of life. And let me get out of the way here that just because a person's high in psychopathy, it doesn't mean that they're going to kill or hurt anybody. James Fallon, for instance, wrote a book about that, and he is a self-identified psychopath. And my one of my preceptors in my doctoral program, he told me right off the bat. He asked me, he said, "What are you studying?" I said, "I'm studying psychopaths." He said, "Oh, I'm a psychopath." And I thought, "What?" So that was kind of alarming. That was a meeting number one. I mean, we hadn't even been at the coffee or anything, and he's like, "What are you studying? Psychopathy?" "Yeah, I'm a psychopath." "What do I like to do on the weekends?" "Golf." "Hey, I'm a golfer." And he said it just like that. It didn't bother him in the least. And there are some professions, by the way, that do tend to be uh, for whatever reason, and I think there are reasons higher in psychopathy. I'll let you guess what they are. Don't look it up. See if you can guess. Maybe you might think it's people that do what I do, people that are clinicians. So maybe Josh, my friend Josh down there, should sleep with one eye open because Dr. Christina, she looks normal. She acts sweet, but maybe that's just an act and she's waiting, waiting, waiting on that right time when Josh is in the shower and he has soap in his eyes, and then she'll strike. So we'll talk a bit about that too. Let's see. I don't think TMR can be here today. So if you want to co host with me, give me a wave and be glad to bring.
Hello, Dr. Heath.
Hey there, Long Brain. Good to see you. If
I thought this was a good time to come in.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. Wait.
you
Well,
know,
let me get
Kane,
hey, Lombre, let me get a co-host real quick to join us. And I'm not sure. I think Clark might have waved first. So let me invite Clark up, and then I'll have you take it away, share your thoughts, and then I'll go to Clark. But Long Brain, this was your idea. So tell me, what are your thoughts? What brought this idea to your mind?
Kane is the influence of most of the modern horror era in books and the movies that all these books influenced, right? And isn't he the butcher of what Wisconsin town was it? I think it's Plainville. Was that it?
I don't remember the city, but since some people may not know who Ed Gein was, can you give us maybe a brief bio or share your what you know about him?
Well, I know he killed a lot of women. That's one thing I know about him.
Yeah, that's true, and I'm not an Ed Gein expert, but very non-assuming looking guy, kind of a
I'm not either, but he had a deep relationship with his mother, as we know from the Bates Motel story.
yeah. That's where they got the Bates Motel story. So he had a thing with his mom, who
Ed yeah, Ed Geets was from Wisconsin,
Wisconsin.
and he yes, and what he did was he would, kill, people, probably mostly women, because women can get fat, so you got extra skin, and he would make lampshades out of them, out of their skin.
Yeah, the
I
Nazis,
remember that.
the Nazis did that too, and that's where they got that storyline from. Silence of the Lambs, by the way. But Guy was very non-assuming. He was kind of a loner. People remember him being kind of a creepy dude, and I think he did keep it. Didn't he keep his mummified mother in his house? Maybe I'm wrong about that. It's been some time since I looked into him. But if you have other thoughts on Gein or other serial killers or questions about them, then you're welcome to come on up. But
Ripper was the first known. and somebody that hasn't been caught. So that's why Jack the Ripper is probably really interesting. And people continue to make their own stories about him, stories based on his story, and the stories continue to flow about Jack all the time.
Yeah, certainly.
All kinds of stuff.
Yeah, there's all kinds of thoughts about Jack. In that, one is that Jack was American and a transplant to Britain. I'm not sure if you've heard that, but yeah, do
Uh,
share on your favorite serial killer. But I have a question for you guys as you come up, and I'm going to ask Longbrain this first, then we'll go to Clark, and then we'll go to some other hands.
Go ahead.
But what is your personally? What is it that you think fascinates you about serial killers? Why aren't we talking about Pokemon or something here? Why are we talking about serial killers? What is it that fascinates you about
I
serial
think
killers?
I think our world is obsessed with them. Like there's always new shows about these, like the Ted Bundy tapes and other things about any serial killer. I think we want to hear the story. I think we're obsessed with people that die, right? And the people that end up being the ones that murder them. We want to know. I don't know why we want to know. We just want to know what's in the psychopathic mind. Why they did this horrible act. We want to hear the story. I guess that's what it is.
I think so. And I think part of that is the way the human brain practices reality.
Yeah.
If you want to learn how to play golf, you'll go take lessons. But then your brain's going to practice in the background. It's going to practice when you're eating dinner. Your spouse is going to say, "What are you thinking about?" And your brain is really on the ninth hole or something. And so you're practicing things. I think our brains practice things to figure them out. And one of those things is imagining death, imagining tragedy, because we know, I think, at a deep subconscious level, if only that we're all going to die in some way. I was looking up the other day when Theo Huxtable drowned. What do people who have experienced drowning, what do they report? They actually don't report prolonged terror. They report initial terror, but then they actually report peace as the brain starts shutting down. So, if there's any comfort in Malcolm Jamal Warner's experience of death, it's that at the end he was probably quite peaceful, and that brings comfort to me. So, I think that may be one thing is we want to look at all the ways to die, and there's a bit of the soap opera effect. The soap opera effect, I made that up. You probably won't find it anywhere, but the soap opera effect that I've been talking about for years is I have a theory that people love to watch soap operas because as bad as their life sucks, it doesn't suck this bad. You know, as bad as things are on the home front, man, those people have it so much worse. That's why we like to talk about the neighbors. Man, we got it bad, but look how horrible the neighbors are, or something like that. And so, as bad as it is to get cancer, as bad as it is to have, whatever neuroblastoma, whatever, we weren't chopped up in the wood chipper the way what's his name chopped up people on Fargo or something or another. And then there's other, of course, real life stories that probably, I'm sure that's really happened. But I think that may be one of the effects. Clark, what do you think? Why do you think we're so fascinated with serial killers?
Yeah, so I got a couple of maybe three things to say about this. So I want to say what's up, Long Brain, Dr. Heath. Great to be here. Thank you for
Hey,
having me
Clark.
co-host. I love this show. This is one of my favorite shows on X, definitely. So I just want to say, John Wayne Gacy, definitely not my favorite or anything, but I do every day. I travel the bridge where he dumped a body into the river, and every day I kind of have that reminder, as I cross that bridge. It's like at one point in time, John Wayne Gacy was dumping a body right there. It's like I can literally point out the spot because I'm on it every day, and I've seen videos like remakes of how it happened and stuff, and like where it's at. So like I know the exact area, and every day I pass that. And
Clark, what is the bridge? Where is this?
it's on 55, 55 North, which they also call Barack Obama Presidential Expressway, but we call it 55 here. And there's a part I'm not sure. I think it's the Kankakee River that runs under it, and that's where he dumped the body. He just, he tossed it over and just took off in his car. And so I drive that
What
every day
state?
because it's the only way to get Illinois. And these were the same type of places, that like even John Dillinger, Al Capone used these roads and all that, so all those guys use these roads because these are the main roads that go in and out of certain areas over rivers that break up the ground, so they have no roads that go any other way. You gotta cross this, highway in this bridge just to get somewhere. So but it is out in the country, kind of the country area. But yeah, anyway, so I pass that every day. So I always have that reminder, John Wayne Gacy dumping the body and everything. And
And did you say that
and
the something that sounded like the Kinky River runs beneath it? That's so ironic.
Kankakee, yeah. Well, there's a couple rivers. I'd have to clarify which river it actually is because I know the spot. I just never paid attention too much to which river, but I believe it is the Kankakee River that spot is at. So it's called the Kankakee River. And yeah, I believe that's the exact spot he dumped that body. But and then like I have a fascination, and I just watched all this because it just came out. Like I have a fascination with Dexter, and like I always said, well, if I ever needed to do something, Dexter taught me the way to do it. It's like, and I don't know why. I don't know why. And this was something that even Longbrain popped up with, and Dr. Heath, you kind of touched on it, but it's like, I can't explain why I'm so infatuated with Dexter. It's not that I want to kill people, because no, that's not it. But here's the other thing. I'm like connected to these people, and I don't want to say that in a weird way, but what I mean is my illness that I have, some of these people have that same illness, and this is what they do with themselves. They have the same illness as me, and they go and do shit like that. Like, so it's just a twist in the brain for me to think that somebody with my condition could actually turn into a monster like that. And it's like, I'm nothing like that, but it's like, it's just like a mental thought that always pops up. It's like, yeah, some people like you are just fucking crazy killers, like because they never get medicated. They never go see a doctor. They don't see a psychiatrist. They don't have health care. They're usually in situations like that, so they don't bother. And these are people that don't care. Like, when you're talking about psychopaths, they don't give a crap about their health. They just want to feast on their darkness, and they just want to let it all out, and that's what they do. And so medicine's the last thing on their mind, and these are the type of people that won't take the medicine. Like these guys, even if you got them in a hospital and you knew they were dangerous, they wouldn't even take the shit. They would never even. It's just, they might lie to you, they might take it and then just lie, and then when they get out, they might follow the program just to get out, and then like they'll go get out, stop taking it, and they'll just go back to killing people because it's just in their
Well,
DNA.
well, well,
Monsters are
the
monsters.
well, I don't know. That's a good point. We'll talk about that. Is killing in your DNA? Um,
Yeah,
and
good point.
it's a good question, but the thing that my brain touched on when you were talking about that, on the medication, by the way, the reason a lot of people don't take their medication is it sucks, and you actually feel worse when you take some of these medications that people are doped up on. And then people are often over medicated. Clinicians go way too far off the deep end, too many pills, too high dosage, that kind of thing, and so they just don't feel good. Even John Nash, Nobel Prize winning John Nash, the guy on whom the movie Beautiful Mind is based,
Wonderful
he
mind.
didn't like taking it because he lost his creativity. So The other thing about what you're saying is we learn things through imaginal exposure. We learn things. Keep that in mind. I'll come back to it. Number two, we experience a bit of catharsis with imaginal exposure. I have a friend of mine. I did an interview with him. He writes novels, murder mysteries, and some of you've heard me say this, but during the interview, he said, I pull my stories from real life. He said, for instance, my kids were going to a school and I butted heads with the principal, and so I killed him. And I did it in an awful way, but only in my book. In my book, I wrote out that I murdered this guy. And that way, every time I saw him out in the parking lot, I could relive the experience of having murdered him. And my ad would be through or via imaginal exposure. There are documentaries of small children, and I mean kids that are 8, 9, or 10, killing other children. And when you interview them, what do they say? They'll say things like, I wanted to see what it would be like. So they've already experimented what it's like to kill a frog, what it's like, even, and this hurts my heart to say it, kill a dog or a cat. And they wanted to see what it would be like, not just imaginal exposure, but real life exposure of actually killing another human child. And there's a young male child that comes to mind that murdered a female neighbor child by drowning her. And for no other reason, I wanted to see it be like. Now, the human brain has controls that keep most of us from doing that, and that's the aforementioned OFC and orbitofrontal cortex and the DLPFC. But these are dark. When I did my hemoencephalographic readings, forget that word, but it just, measurement of oxygen in the blood is what that means. What I found was when I exposed people to what's called the International Affective Picture Set, IAPS, IAPS, and it would be awful pictures, awful pictures. I don't remember if this is one, but I've got them on my computer. I would show people these pictures, then do measurements of what the oxygen was doing in their brains. And it might be of a tsunami and there's a lot of dead bodies, or it could be of a car wreck where there's a mangled body. The higher a person is in psychopathy, the lower level of activation that they will have. And so when it comes to a person high in psychopathy, the machinery that you and I have just simply isn't kicking in. It simply isn't kicking in. So let me go to back to Clark real quick, and then we'll go to Long Brain, then we got to grab some hands.
Yeah, so I just want to say you touched on a really not I shouldn't say funny, but a subject that I really relate to because Dr. Heath, I write books too, and I've done the same thing your friend did. I've done the same thing. Somebody I didn't like, and wrote a short story or a poem or something like that, and killed the motherfucker.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you being genuine with that. Yeah, thank you.
I would never do it. I would
Yeah,
never do it, but it's like this the being able to create a scenario where I could
yeah.
and nothing would happen, it was freeing,
Well, it can be cathartic. I'm not recommending this, but I am being trying to be genuine and not be, PC politically correct or something. And I don't think it's a rare thing. I don't think it's a rare thing. I don't want to scare everybody because I am a nice guy. I love puppy dogs and kitty cats, and I rescue frogs from the skimmers in my pool and things like that. But I really do not like flying on an airplane because of the other people just being annoying people. It's almost like you get on a flight and the ticket I bought was the flight with the most annoying people in the universe. And here they are. And usually they're sitting right beside me, And so the song I played, the Dexter song that I played to start the space, I have listened to that song 1,000 times sitting on the tarmac of airports across the nation, looking around the plane, thinking to myself, I could kill every single one of you. Maybe not, but one or two at a time, maybe three at a time. But I could do it. I could do it. You're lucky. You're lucky. Mama that with a screaming kid that's not taking care of the screaming kid, dude chomping and smacking his gum, yeah, dead, 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 dead. Everybody, but I would never do it. But there's a certain catharsis to actually just kind of going through the imaginal exposure. Long brain. Then we're going to go over to one of our two Joshes.
I hear what you're saying. I've murdered many people that are annoying in my head on planes and other things. I think we're very upset with these people because they're on the news, true famous for the wrong reason. And oftentimes people want to study what makes them tick, maybe become part of the BAU, the people that hunt these people down. There's a great show called Criminal Minds. I love their quotes. They always have some good ones. And they are played by some unbelievable actors that probably studied uh, what you studied and probably talked to some real feds that do this for a living, that have to understand the psychopathic mind just to catch up with these people that they hunt down on a daily basis.
I've negotiated with some of these folks, not particular serial killers, but
Right.
people who have a high level of criminality. And you would think that they're the hardest people to negotiate with, but they're really not. They're really not. And the reason it makes them easier to negotiate with is they are so self serving. And if you can key into that, you can have a conversation because they're so self serving. If I get folks out of order, forgive me. I'm not a psychopath that way. I'm not doing it on purpose. But let's go to uh, Josh number one, and then we'll go to Josh number two. Josh number one being the first Josh I met, and then Josh Altman, the second Josh I met. But Josh number one, take it away.
Dr. Heath, I think I'm last in line, my friend. I think I'm
Well,
last in
he
line.
that's first shall be last. He is last shall be first.
Okay,
Well, let
well,
me go to
well,
Gaetano then.
yeah, I was last, so.
It's so weird how you can't see hands. It's so
Yes, it is.
weird
I have to
because I
scroll
had
up and
my hand
down.
up a bunch of times
Oh,
too,
did
and
you
it
really, Jane?
yeah, and it disappeared.
Well,
It like
well,
disappeared.
Jane, since you're speaking, go ahead and say your part. Then we'll go to Gaetano and Gigi. I think was one of the first, but Jane, go ahead.
And I don't understand why this happens on X. It's so weird. Um, I love Dexter. He's my favorite serial killer. Wisconsin's weird. I mean, we got quite a few serial killers in Wisconsin. The ones that I know, Ed Gein, and then of course Jeffrey Dahmer, whose apartment I used to drive past every day on my way to work. Um, yeah, yeah, so that's weird. But the reason I'm fascinated with serial killers is because, the antisocial or the psychopathic personality disorder, no, I don't even know what term they're using to call them by anymore. But from what I understand from my humble studies is that it developed from a severe detachment from their mother when they were a baby, like something horrible happened, like the mother rejected them or they got horribly abused or something like that, but it was something that tripped their brain. Like Dexter would say, I was born in blood, he was born, he saw his mother getting chopped up. um so I ask myself, so yeah, I'm fascinated about what's in their mind, and if they're really tortured souls on the inside. And what I liked about Dexter, it's a show that was shown in the first, played in the first person, so you got to listen to what was going on in Dexter's mind. And he really was tortured in his mind. He was constantly questioning himself and stuff like that, so he really did. He wanted to be okay, but he said he had that dark passenger and he couldn't get rid of the dark passenger. So I just find it real fascinating about the mind of a psychopath. That's what sparks my curiosity about them, and I'll pass. Thank you.
Well, thank you, thank you. Yeah, the etiology, the foundations of well, anything, no matter if you're talking about somebody that's a bank robber, or somebody who's a child molester, or somebody who is a serial entrepreneur but gets into serial relationships and sucks at every one of them, is really different. But there are some similarities. It does tend to be someone with a cold, detached mother and an abusive father. This was what's his name? Richard Kuklinski, not the Unabomber. That's Kozinski, but Richard Kuklinski. Mom was hooked on alcohol and pills. Dad was a equal opportunity asshole abuser, and it begins as kind of a survival mechanism. If I have more pain in a way that I think about you as my father, then if I can change how I see you and I experience less pain, then that's what I'm going to do. You fans of the Amityville Horror, which is based on the DeFeo family, Ron DeFeo, and of course, not to burst bubbles, but it was all made up. His story was made up, and then the what's his guy's name, Jay something, that wrote the book, decided that he could make a bestseller, making it more spooky. But it was a cover story for a guy who was abused by his father, and he was also into drugs. And it was a good cover story for just murdering everybody. But I put up in the Jumbotron the key factors in psychopathy are in four dimensions: interpersonal, uh, affective, lifestyle, and antisocial. And there's different effect sizes among those, and there's different effect sizes within those. And so, for instance, somebody that is very glib and superficial, we find that more than we find antisocial characteristics, and we find that more than we find some of the lifestyle characteristics, such as lifestyle. One of the characteristics there is irresponsibility. Well, but not everybody with high psychopathy is irresponsible. For instance, my preceptor in my PhD program, where I did a rotation, he was a very, very responsible, very accomplished guy. Actually, ran a huge department. So you see, that really kind of rings true that he has a high level of psychopathy, but within that mix, within that steer, that potpourri of characteristics or factors, when it comes to irresponsibility, that's only a 0.58 overall, and on him it might have been much lower than that. But those are the four factors. You can look at the sub factors there. They tend to lack remorse or guilt, tend to have a shallow affect. That means when you look at them, they really don't change a whole lot. They may tend to be very callous and lack empathy, and that's pretty high. That's a 0.82. But then if you look at things like antisocial, having a history of juvenile delinquency, that may be much lower. So it's all different. It's all different. You can't really look at one person and say, "Oh, they always had a distant mother," because some people that tend to be high in psychopathy might have had a very caring mother. But let me go back to Longbrain real quick, and then we'll go to Gigi. I think Gigi's been waiting longer than anybody. Longbrain, go ahead. Or we can go to Gigi. Hey, Longbrain, go ahead if you're ready.
Okay. Well, I lost my train of thought, so you can come back to me.
Yeah, those trains happen that way. Sometimes they go by quicker than we'd like.
I'll
But let's go to
my
Gigi
hand
and then back to Longbrain.
when I get back.
Gigi, go ahead if you're ready.
So I wanted to. You asked a question to the room earlier, and I wanted to sort of answer with a few of it, which was, if I remember correctly, something along the lines of, what are some of the top professions that, or lines of work that attract psychopaths, or something along those lines? I'm misquoting here. Was I right?
No, you're right. What do you think?
So I'm going to go based on a bit of personal experience here, but that would be, I'm going to go for the less obvious ones because everybody thinks of, oh, a politician, or I don't know, salesperson or something, CEO like that, which is true. But some of the less obvious ones would be surgeons, along with surprisingly police officers. And let me pick a really, really like out there one. Chefs, actually, that's quite common in the chef world.
Is it really? Now,
Kitchens.
that's a new one on me. Why do
Yes.
you think that is?
So that's where you get into the obsessive side of psychopathy, especially. So a lot of chefs, especially at the higher levels, there's an intense obsession there where it's craft only. It's a very intense dominance hierarchy in the professional world out there. So it's very, very attractive to many in that regard who also have a love for food. No, that's a less common one. Along with, I was very surprised about surgeons when I found that out, because in the commercial sense of what they show in movies, psychopaths, these bad people, but actually a core part of psychopathy is, in a sense, impartiality or often indifference, or having the ability to, with the example you gave earlier, with the images, being able to, deal and look at and experience or be involved with things of that gravitas and not sort of crumble in a way, but also in some cases be kind of almost detached from it. So surgeons, they're opening people up on a daily basis, right? There's got to be something and a few things there that sort of correlate with psychopathy, but it manifests differently, actually. And I like the approach you're having to this. Hollywood will show you that it's the world as terrible people, but actually, like a lot of things on the dark triad, be that narcissism, sort of Machiavellianism, and psychopathy, especially the latter two, I would say, are the ones that can often be a little bit more neutral in how they manifest. Narcissism's I'd say a little bit more extreme in how that manifests. But segueing here, yeah, those are some of the three I've found are the least common. So chefs, surgeons, and police officers.
Good guess.
Um,
Good guess. Yeah, I do assessments. Most jurisdictions, before you can become a certified police officer, you have to go through a psych eval. And I have seen not in every case, but in a lot of cases, higher, I shouldn't say high, a higher degree of psychopathy. And like I said, everybody's on the continuum. Everyone's on the spectrum. Some are incredibly low, and then sometimes you'll see it change based on situation. So there's a bit of a sliding scale rule here. But the top do tend to be surgeons and Wall Street bankers. No surprise there. And politicians. Politicians. Now, surgeons, think about it, because there's a huge power differential with all of those professions, a huge power differential. Secondly, especially, you can do things that are naughty and often get away with it. With surgeons, you can cut into living human bodies and not be called upon criminal charges, as long as you're not amputating or removing the wrong body part. And it does make lots of money. And again, it gets lots of fame. So there again is the power differential. Gigi, thanks so much.
yeah, sorry, just a quick one. I wanted to just answer the second thing, which was like what we think, why we think people are interested in it. So, and I think briefly, to put it briefly, it's because when we watch these things online or in movies or whatever, it speaks to a part of ourselves, and it gives us, because as Dr. Heath said, it's within us all, but it gives us this space to be able to explore and test or sort of see what's going on without becoming it ourselves or without diving into that ourselves. It's why things like villains in movies, although a lot of them are dramatized or almost idolized so much, because it kind of gives a sense of, I get that, as a viewer in some way, and you can connect with it without sort of becoming that. So I think it's maybe an unconscious seeking to understand self.
Yeah, I think it really is. We do more things in imaginal exposure than we believe. This is one of the purposes of dreaming. Dreams are a type of imaginal exposure. It is when we leverage hypotheses, test hypotheses in a safe way. Motor cortex gets disconnected, and so we're not really going to strangle our wife or husband, whatever the case may be, or put a pillow over their face, but we can certainly dream about it. But if things go wrong, we do tend to do things like that, and there are cases of night terrors where the person actually does try to strangle a spouse. There's been cases where people have jumped out of windows, not just dreamed of that. And so imaginal exposure, very powerful. Okay, let's go to some other hands here, which keep on disappearing for whatever reason, and get Gaetano in, and then we'll go to Sonia. Gaetano, what do you think? Gaetano, if you can hear, you are good to go. Oh, I'm sorry, Dominic. I said Gaetano. You know, your hand looks like Gaetano's hand. Dominic, go ahead. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. I'm just patiently waiting for the call on. Interesting topic, man. It's such a broad topic. I know it gets often pretty popularized. With all these like Netflix documentaries. You got terrific shows that depict the acts. Like they just did the one on oh, I can't think of his name. Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer was really well done. I find it like interesting the spectrum of like psychopathy to narcissism and how sociopathic energies are all kind of collectively tied together. And I think something that you said earlier, you would never think that the killer is the killer because that's their alibi. They're squeaky clean. They're like the types that you don't really ever notice. They're under the radar. They're usually charming, very good looking. They have great jobs. They're good with people. They get along well, and the alibi becomes like that squeaky clean image where nobody looks Dexter's way the whole time. You're like, it's him, it's him, it's right there in front of you. And I just think it's such an interesting dynamic, and obviously I'm clearly not as qualified as you, Dr. Heath. But the brain chemistry that goes behind the building, the construction of this type of person, and the way they're able to just totally separate remorse and empathy, sympathy from the people that they're doing these vicious acts to is, I mean, it, for lack of better terminology, it's so evil and just dark and just very, very like a huge piece of the human puzzle missing. So I don't want to take up too much time. I want to get to all these other hands, but I do appreciate the conversation, and you're overqualified to host this type of space. It definitely caught my attention, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dominic. I appreciate that. Yeah, good point. Good point. The thing is it doesn't happen overnight. There's no snap of the finger where somebody wakes up and they're a psychopath. It's really very much, and I hope you get this, guys, from looking at the diagram, which is one of the main ways of explaining this in the field as a multi-dimensional model of psychopathy. Is it's kind of like the perfect storm. If you've ever seen the movie, we have storms, but this thing that, which actually, to my understanding, happened in the movie The Perfect Storm with George Clooney. Um, was a bunch of factors coming together that created this monster. And so there's not one thing, because there's plenty of people that maybe even here today that were abused as children, but you're not a psychopath and certainly not a serial killer. Plenty of people that had maybe a cold mother, but you're not a psychopath and you're not a serial killer. Plenty of people that grew up, and let me mute your mic there, Dom. There are plenty of people who grew up in a household full of drugs, but you're not a serial killer, not a psychopath. And so it really is a confluence of many things that creates this monster. And one of the things that helped me understand psychopathy more, not that I might have been described this way, because I get it. I'm one of the things that helped me understand it more is to get the term evil out of the way, uh, because it kind of muddies the water. When you look at it as this is something that the human brain has become. Now, why is that? What's the best explanation for that? I'm a believer. I do believe there is a being called Satan, but then again, sometimes the devil's not necessary to explain something. Sometimes it is just an awful, awful, tragic thing, and we give the devil too much credit. And so it's kind of, again, a confluence of different factors where, for whatever reason, you're talking about the chemistry. And while you're talking, I put up another graphic, which is a brain scan. Actually, James Fallon, he's a neuroscientist, his own brain scan. And what you can see by looking at that, if you look at it closely, this will make sense that you have cold loops and you have hot loops, cold cognition, hot cognition. Now, in the normal human brain, you are deciding things. You don't know you're deciding them until I just mentioned that you're deciding them. And then now you're aware that you're deciding them. You're deciding without even knowing it if the sound of my voice through your speaker of your smartphone or computer is too loud, and if it gets outside of certain parameters, you're going to either increase it or decrease it. And you're not even aware that that decision making process is going on. Okay. So that is a hot cognition loop that you're not even aware is happening. But the other thing is, one consideration may be to open your mic and complain that I'm either too low or too loud. Whether you do it or not depends on the OFC. So the OFC is going to connect with social considerations, moral considerations, character based considerations. And this is a difference in these two readings here that I've shown you in the Jumbotron, is that the higher somebody is in psychopathy, their PFC, the bus driver, keeps working well and may actually outperform you or me. But the OFC, the social cognition, the connected part of our brains with other people, may be cold as ice. No pun intended, but the first part of Dexter was about the ice truck killer, right? And that wasn't an accident. I think about it. Serial killers, the ice truck killer, cold as ice, a song that talks about being, all this stuff is written, and the writers were great writers and they knew what they were doing. But I think that this is a great illustration from, Dr. Fallon, of how his own brain works. The cool thing is, psych people high in psychopathy can be trained to function as normal citizens. They can be a great neighbor. I may not let them babysit the kids, but I might let them mow my yard. You know, I might not let them feed my hummingbirds because they may poison them, but I might let them build me I don't know, a hummingbird feeder or martin box or something like that. And yes, when it came to my supervisor, I might even let them. I'm not sure if he revealed that to the hiring committee before he got hired, but maybe he did. Maybe they didn't care because he was a really intelligent guy. Can actually be a great supervisor, because see, the difference in you and me also is that the reason that you interact socially will be very, very different than the reason somebody high in psychopathy interact socially. It's much more mechanistic. It's much more other reward based. It's much more wolf carousing around with the sheep. And so let's go on to another hand here. I see we have several of them. Longbrain, go ahead. Then we'll go to uh, Abe and Paula.
All right, Dr. Heath, we all have it in us to do good or evil. And you're right, it's built up over time why these people become psychopaths. I like to go back to the Amityville horror. Sure, that was made up, but it's modern horror, so the backbone of it, like most modern horror, maybe not Jaws, it's based on sharks, is based on Ed Gein. So even if you're like, that's a fake story, but even the backbone, like when they write that first draft, it's based on real horror because it's modern horror. Right. That's the point I wanted to get to. And I've actually never seen Dexter, but it's on the list. Everybody that's seen it, people in this room and other people that I've talked to, always say how great it is. And I'm like, well, I got to put it on the list. I'll check out before next year. Definitely got to.
Well, and yeah, and let me a little bit of disclaimer there. Um, just because I share, guys, what I watch doesn't mean I'm recommending that you watch it. There are probably, I mean, not probably, there are definitely people in the space today that should not watch Dexter. Believe it or not, I did not watch Dexter. I mean, somewhat out of entertainment, but my go to, my motivator was it's about something that I study. And I wanted to see how this thing that I study was presented and see if it was presented accurately, and I was pretty amazed. I was pretty amazed. It really is. I think the guy that wrote it was his name Jeff Lindsay that came up with Darkly Dreaming Dexter, the book that this was based on. Did his homework. He really did. Let's go to.
Hold on. Before you go there, Heath, what net
Mhm.
is Dexter on? Is it on Max?
It was,
It's
I got
HBO Max, I
no,
think.
no,
Wait,
no.
I
It's
have.
not. It's on Showtime.
Showtime.
You got to get Paramount and then Showtime, and they
Oh,
have all of
Paramount.
them. There's more than just one now because
Oh,
they had one season after that, and now there's a show where Dexter is younger, so it's a different character with a Michael C. Hall voiceover, and then there's another one where it takes place after the one season one they did after the first Dexter. So they got
Yeah,
whole bunch.
it's almost getting like Star Wars. That You've got to Google what's the correct timeline to watch this thing in because they keep on coming back. But yeah, good
maybe in a
point. Good
couple
point.
months. I have other money priorities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank
I,
you. Let me go to some of these hands here, guys. We got to wrap it up here in about 12 minutes. So we'll grab some hands and we may do a part two of this sometime. Paula, my friend, take it away. Then we'll go to some other hands.
Yes, hi. I'm so glad you mentioned that Amityville Horror was fake. I actually did not know that. I have blocked out Amityville Horror forever. I watched it on TV when it came out, like back in, I don't know, 79 or 1980. And I did not sleep for a good 6 months after that. And I swore off horror movies. I have never watched a horror flick except for I went once to a Freddy Krueger movie, but that didn't impact me whatsoever. But yeah, I can't watch them. So I'm glad you mentioned that because that's been like in the back of my mind forever now. So thank you.
Well, yeah, there you can look up the documentary on that. To my memory, the Jay Anson, that's his name, I think. He met with Lorraine and what was the other guy's name? And they were based, no offense, but they're basically con artists. There's this horrible tragedy that happened with the family. The other people, Lutzes, they moved in, and the question was, how can we spin this to make it more sensational, make money out of it? And they were geniuses. I mean, they were con artists, but they were geniuses because for years they swore up and down that this really happened. And I read the book on the yellow school bus going to and from school every day in 1977, I believe it was, until I finished the book. And then it scared the crap out of me and I became terrified of flies. Spoiler alert, there's flies in the book. Flies will become very scary. And every time I saw a fly, I thought that the demons were coming for me and gonna infest my home and cause somebody, maybe me, to kill everybody. So pretty spooky thing. Not for kids, but my dad didn't know I was reading it. He would have burned it as he did other books. My dad was an avid book burner. If my dad saw me reading a book that was too creepy, he would have me go out in the trash can out back and the metal container thing and burn it. So, but no, it's all fake, all fake.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
good to know. I honestly don't remember much. I think there was walls bleeding. I think that's the only thing I remember.
all kinds of crazy stuff. Yeah, yeah, all kinds of crazy stuff. But all fake. Yeah, I often think, just on a side note, that if this is really the case, if the devil really does stuff like that, he must be an idiot. Because think of if a car salesman wants you to buy a car, why would he come out in a clown mask and costume and run you off? Why would he try to scare the crap out of you if he's trying to sell you an automobile? So Alexa's talking to me, so maybe the demons are coming. Who knows? Abe, go ahead.
Hey Doc, I'm still waiting for the part where we're gonna talk about like Fruit Loops.
Talk about who?
Because I'm eating a bowl of cereal right now.
Talk about Fruit Loops.
Like really killing this thing. I guess we are talking about Fruit Loops. Maybe psychopaths are a little
Hey,
bit
there you
Fruit Loopy.
go.
Who knows? But what I have to say on this is like I hate the subject, but I'm glad you're talking about it. Um, I don't know. I never liked these shows. It just does not tick in my brain. I think it just creeps me out. Like I feel like I don't know. Maybe I've been bullied by some of these people in my younger days. Who knows? Because there's some like weird people out there, man. I mean, there's we were talking about you guys were talking about professions earlier too, but there's a lot of weird people that end up in like the military too. Like I don't know, maybe Josh, you can give us a thumbs up or down or whatever. I got this like from a TV show or a movie, Jack Reacher. There's like four kinds of people that end up in the military: patriots, traditionalists who it's their family thing, people who need a job, and then the final one, the fourth one, the darkest one, is people who just want to kill people. And I kind of looked into that and I found it kind of true. So it's like,
Well, I've worked with the VA for many, many years, DOD for many, many years, and you're right. It's not I don't want to, be down on the military, and I think that there's a tendency to over assimilate. Most people, I would say 99.99% of patriots that join, of course, for the right reasons, that's the hardest thing for them to get their head wrapped around is that they may have to pull the trigger and end a life. That is so normal. But also, sadly, war provides an opportunity for psychopaths to come out to play, and they do. And it's the same for police officers, and then that's why so many people over assimilate and get down on police officers because you don't see the 99.99% that are doing a great job and are true heroes. You have that one, I'm trying to be kind, waste of a human experience who does something really awful and then sullies the good name of everybody else. So yeah, you have that, of course, psychopaths. And you saw this in Germany, that they rose to the top. But here's something that happens both with soldiers and police officers and psychopaths is the human thing that in a life or death situation, in order to survive, the OFC goes dark and then you survive. And you may do that for years, but then there's a comeuppance that years down the road, it begins to wake back up, and that is a hell of its own. That is a hell of its own. And I've seen soldiers, I mean, from back in World War II, that I've worked with, and then guys from whatever war, Korean or Vietnam, will come to be very, very plagued by the memories and the thoughts of doing what they did. And then it's anger they become the threat. In the moment, the target was the threat, even if the target was the human being, but then the target's gone. And the only thing left is me. And then I turn all that threat radar on myself. And it's a very sad thing to see. And I'm sure Josh has seen it. Josh, what do you say? Go ahead.
Oh man, you're about ready to make me just cry. Hello, Dr. Heath. Um, what's up, Long Brain? Clark Kent. I love that. I love that. Superman. Um, um, I have a lot to say on this topic, and I want to stay focused here, but just based on what you guys were just discussing, yeah, I've seen it. I've been around a lot of veterans. I'm a veteran myself. Um, yeah, um, it's tough when you're commit to something that can take the life of another individual. And some soldiers, they kind of get off on it, to be blunt. They get off on it. And it satisfies whatever need that they have in their system because we're trained in a certain way. We're here to protect. But, whether it be law enforcement or military, it does happen. I'd like to say it is a small percent, and Dr. Heath was just talking about that there's a small percent um, where that anger and that drive comes back home once we undeploy. Um, but Dr. Heath, I don't. My share was not in that direction, and I had more of a curiosity question. Um, is so. Yes, by the way, Dr. Heath, I have a security camera and a motion detector in my bathroom. So when I take a shower, Christina cannot come in there and surprise me. I'm going to know that the threat is real and aware. So just to throw that out there. So when I am washing my hair and I get soap in my eyes,
You have a security cam in your bathroom?
no, I'm just teasing. I don't really.
I was going to ask if that's some kind of, I don't know, sexual kink that you and Christina have going on.
No. Well, okay, well, now you just sparked a new idea. So maybe I should do that. No, but Dexter and whatnot. Christina, so those that don't know my wife, she is a therapist, she's a psychologist, and she works with kids and teens. But she's really into and intrigued by serial killers. She's made me watch Dexter. So we've spent entire evenings binge watching Dexter. We spent entire evenings watching things like, because I'm from Wisconsin, watching Jeffrey Dahmer, like live stuff. So there's a difference between made for TV versus like in real life documentary type stuff. But she is super intrigued by it, but she has no desire other than the desire to watch, learn, absorb. But Dr. Heath, this is one my daughter, Dr. Heath knows this, but my daughter, my youngest daughter, she's starting college in literally 1 week, and she's going into a forensic psychology program. And I'm like, Maddie, why do you want to do this? Why do you want to do this? And she's like, Dad, I love this stuff. I'm so intrigued by it. I'm like, yeah, you're like 5 foot nothing, weigh 100 pounds. And the last thing you want to do is get involved with somebody like out of the movie Nefarious, where she goes and visits a jail discussing, psychological behaviors with some serial killer or something like that. I don't understand. So the question that I have for you, Dr. Heath, is so you, my wife, and my daughter are all professionals in this. So what drives you guys to be curious about looking at that, avenue of behavior versus just working with kids and teens? And then I have a follow-up question is on the serial killer type of vibe. So whether you look at the Idaho incident or a Ted Bundy or um, um, uh, 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 why did I just lose his name from Wisconsin? These serial killers and stuff like that. Does neurodivergent tendencies have a influential role versus somebody who's neurotypical, or is it universal across it? Whether you're a veteran or a police officer, or does that cognitive process, that neurodivergent process, have influence?
On being interested in this stuff?
No, those are two separate questions.
Oh, okay. On the being interested, I like taking things apart. I grew up taking apart everything in my house, almost getting electrocuted, taking things apart. I used to, of course, dissect frogs and snakes, and I was a weird kid. Look at things under microscopes. I like taking things apart. Siler from the TV show Heroes would, before he was the serial killer in the TV show, by the way, superpowered guy, kind of a mutant guy, and there was a show about mutants, by the way. But he would say, let's see how that works. He would run into another superhuman that had a skill he didn't have, and he would hold his finger up. He's now Spock, by the way, great actor, now Spock, but good fit. But he would hold his finger up because that was his kind of laser to cut apart the brains of his fellow superheroes. And he would say, let's see how that works. And no, I'm not a psychopath, but I do love to see how things work, Josh. And, forensic psychology and neuropsychology, both in which I have PhDs, are disciplines of dissection, basically, looking to see how things work. I will say both, depending on who you are, they're actually I'm just a nerdy guy, so it sounds sexy maybe to me, and it may sound sexy to you, but when you start doing it, if you're not really built for it, it's going to bore the crap out of you because it can be very boring work unless you're thrilled by and passionate of the work. And I always have been. I love seeing how people's brains work. I love seeing why people make one choice versus the other choice. It sounds very ghoulish, and I don't mean for it to, but I really love helping people. But I'm also fascinated at how people choose to screw their life up and the fact that they seem to have no awareness of it and the fact that they seem not to understand when you point it out. And I'm like, Siler, yeah, let's cut that apart and see how that works. And then you basically metaphorically have their brain cut apart on a table, the therapy table. I actually do have a big concrete table, but I don't dissect bodies on it. I metaphorically dissect brains. And I show them the anatomy, and they look at it and say, what's wrong with that? Everybody works that way. Well, no, they don't. No, they don't. If you talk to serial killers, they say stuff like that, by the way, which is how we are very much in our set beliefs like serial killers. If you watch the interviews with Richard Kuklinski and ask him, about burning a man alive, his response will be, well, yeah. I mean, come on. What was I supposed to do? What other choice did I have? And when you talk to people that wreck their lives, they say the same thing. Well, yeah, but what was I supposed to do? It is a lack of insight. And in this case, in retrospect, it's a lack of properly activating the bus driver area of the brain, the seat of executive functions. Let me go to Clark and Long Brain since they're co-hosts. They're going to wrap it up with their hands down there, Bridges and Fitz. Thank you guys for being so patient.
Just want to say, Dr. Heath, I didn't get to say who my favorite was. I just want to say Long Brain actually brought it up first, but my favorite, I think, story about a serial killer is Jack the Ripper. And I love the movie From Hell with Johnny Depp, where he's the detective on the case. I think that movie is brilliant. And I just think the whole Jack the Ripper thing is just crazy because to have that level of expertise and having the equipment meant this guy had to be somebody who knew everything about this. He had to, and back then he would have had to studied it because it was so long ago. He probably was at a school that people knew, and like, so it might have been someone well known even. It's just crazy, that story. So yeah, I just wanted to share that.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Yeah. I think that people have their. It's kind of weird to say this. I don't want to glamorize killing, but their favorite serial killer. I'm not convinced that there's a really high correlation between serial killers and high levels of intelligence. I think Anne Rule, she did lots of murder stories on, real life murders. That if even people of average or low intelligence, the more you do something, the better you get at it. And people who engage in criminal activity, they may have average IQ, they may have high IQ, but the thing that best explains how they get away with it is not high IQ. It's a number of things, one of which is that they sit around and think about it all the time. The more you sit around and think about a problem, whether it's how to kill somebody and get away with it, the better you're able to do it. The other thing, the more you practice, the better you get. And you can look at serial killers ramping up and getting better at what they do and better at getting away with it. The other factor is overburdened law enforcement. It's not like the movies, there are no small towns that have a special serial killer department or something like that. There's currently a murder near where I am that I'm part of the situation, and it's just an overburdened police department. They're not trying to not solve it, but they've got so many cases, and taxpayers aren't willing to pay for this Hollywood level. You've got Johnny Depp investigating it, or you've got Sherlock Holmes. Where's Sherlock Holmes when you need him? Well, little jurisdictions can't afford that kind of stuff, and so even if it goes, if it's interstate, the FBI will get involved, but even they don't have that kind of resources. And so, the thing with the BAU and all that, a lot of that really is Hollywood. And in real life, most murders are just going to go unsolved. And when they do get solved, it's because the intelligence of the person doing it comes to fore, rises to the surface, and they make a mistake. And these days, it's harder than ever because you got video cameras and DNA and that kind of thing. But again, if you have someone that gets sent to the state crime lab, it's going to take a really long time. I mean, this is not an overnight thing. The thing about, hey, run this sample and I need it by tomorrow, that's Hollywood stuff. And a lot of this takes a very long time, and the police are really, really burdened down. And so, no, I don't think that. See, if criminals are really, really smart, you know what they do? They would just be normal people and get a freaking job. If they're really smart, they would play the stock market and win and be Warren Buffett, or they would be an entrepreneur and found a company and make billions or something. But see, they're not. And one of the ways that their low level of intellect shows through is they do things. They are guided by their passions, which make them no money, that will make them no retirement. And it's just like, what's his name? The Zodiac killer, who has probably been identified. And he's just some lonely old dude who is broke and in bad physical shape, not a genius. People say, well, but he made all these codes and everything. Well, look, once you know how to make codes, uh, you'll seem like a genius, but the only reason you're a genius is you have keys to the code that nobody does. You have to be a bit of a genius to break a code. You don't have to be a genius to make a code. I can make a code with any book off my bookshelf that no one will ever solve, but that's not because I'm a genius. It's because I have a key that you don't. Now, if you make a code and I solve it, then yeah, I've got to be pretty darn smart to do that. But the fact that the Zodiac made a code that took people years and years to solve. No, I don't think that's a great level of genius at all. So let me go to some other hands here. Thanks so much. And Gigi, go ahead, and then we'll go to Brightjust, Fitz, and begin to wrap up the
Hold
space.
on, I thought I was wrap it up next.
Long Brain, go ahead, Long Brain. Then we'll go to Gigi, Fitz, and Bright.
You're
Who
thinking
is?
about that movie I love, From Hell. also graphic novel that I've always wanted to read. Haven't gotten the chance yet, but I might one day. Yeah, Johnny Depp is great as the guy that hunts Ripper down. And Ripper is still my all-time favorite because he was the first known. So his people have so many wild stories. There's a great show In Time where he had a time machine and he would just go to different time periods and kill people. And that was pretty much made up, but that's a great fantasy based on the real person. And I love that. And I think a lot of these people have a bloodlust. Maybe some of them don't have the social skills to attract a mate. So killing is how they sexually get off. Right. That's what my theory is a lot.
Well, that's very Freudian, and I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot. The pleasure system in the body is highly connected because you have a central nervous system, and you'll hear people sexualize everything, and it could be because there are associations. You can have a sexual experience about your dishwasher, but that doesn't mean that it starts out that way. But yeah, if you load and unload your dishwasher naked, and then the pots and pans rub up against your genitalia, and there's a sensation, and then you register, oh, that feels nice, and you do more of it, then that association is going to grow. And then if you automize it, where every time you do it you're stroking yourself, that, sorry for the PG-13 topic here, guys, if kids are listening you can mute me. But if you continue to do that, then that encoding will deepen and deepen and deepen. But that isn't because there's anything sexual about a dishwasher. That's because you've created an association. You can create association sexually with brushing your teeth or doing the lawn. If you want to start riding your lawn more naked, it does kind of vibrate, right? And with anything. And so to say that someone's doing it just for a sexual reason, well, maybe, but that's only because a association got engineered. But yeah, that's a great point. Guys, I do
Well,
need to wrap up really quickly because I do have a real time job, and
hold
it's
on,
not
Heath.
this. It's
That's
in long range. It's not this one. So, if you can take it about and finish up here in about 30 seconds, let me grab a couple of hands. Have been so patient, and then I've got to go because I do have some appointments here before I jump on a space with another person. So let me go to Gigi real quick. Brian, just guys, do me a favor. Take about 45 seconds. I do have to go momentarily. Gigi, go ahead.
Just wanted to, since we're on the topic of Dexter and sort of different medias and things, relation to the topic, one of the films that I watched recently for the first time, brilliant film, made in the 90s, is the Sum of All Fears, and it was Edward Norton's first acting debut, law room drama, but it's a phenomenal film, and that's really interesting, at least into Edward Norton's role in it. Look into the idea of psychopathy in quite a specific way, but it's just thoroughly entertaining as well. So anyone interested in the subject, yeah, I think you'll probably enjoy that film. And the final thing I'll leave with is it's important, especially when we're looking at things like intelligence levels in correlation with psychopathy, that we are not too quick to presume that people like that have a similar value system to us, and to let that not hinder us as well, which is important because I suppose in the sense of IQ, um, that can manifest in many different ways. But I just wanted to leave it that because I see a lot of people doing so throughout interest or even in sort of an early stage, and that's an important differentiation to have because it's not confined
Absolutely.
what we see.
Absolutely. Gigi, thank you so much. As always, appreciate you coming. Brian, just take a minute because I do have to close the space
well,
pretty
Heath,
quickly, but I want to get you
talk
in, Brian.
about
Yes,
Just
yes, doctor. I want to share with you. For the people who are not married and who are unmarried, for example, they have sexual immorality. I will share with you because I was uh, I was attracted with a woman. I think 5 years back. She left me, and I was asking because I believe in Christ. So the thing, I don't want to bring any religion here because, I wanted to share the word of love and the blessing. Because the thing is that we have to ask God before getting married. Because if you get married with the wrong man and a woman, it can bring chaos in the families. And sex is not the right way. And the thing is that you have to always rely on God and ask if it is good or evil. That is up to Shaman, doctor.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And Charlie, take it away. Give you about a minute, then I got to scoot. Okay. Thank you very much.
No problem, Dr. Heath. I wish I would have came into this room earlier. My daughter, she's not that well. She's in her late 20s, I guess. Got caught up on YouTube with some individual, and I'm going to try to get TikTok. I'm sorry, and she ended up flying all the way out to Arizona, Colorado. I'm sorry. I didn't get much sleep last night because I was watching the hunting party, all of the episodes. Okay, here's the point. I had to rescue her the second time. We had to get her out of there because we believe, based on what we were hearing, is that the guy that she was with was a psychopath, schizophrenic, bipolar. Right before we got her out of there, he had written me a confession letter. And all I wanted to do, if there's another chance, is run this guy's stuff through you and see what you think, whether he's a psychopath or not, at another time. So if that's possible,
And I'm sorry. Yeah. We'll do a part two. We'll do a part two sometime. And is your daughter safe now?
She's safe now, thank
Oh,
God.
thank God indeed. Thank God indeed.
She lost 35 pounds and has a
Oh
lot of
my.
PTSD. Yeah,
Wow. Well, I hope she gets.
it's pretty deep.
Yeah, she needs some supportive therapy, and I hope she gets that.
Yeah,
Y'all, she's blessed to have you guys as parents. But we'll do a part two of this. But on that
sure.
point, let me just kind of wrap up, show us
Okay.
to share with you guys. The PCLR is it's a psychopathy checklist. It's one of the tools I used along with my NRS my NRS hemoencephalography device to measure people's brains to see what level of psychopathy they may have been at. And it's a scale that goes up to 40. The watermark for psychopathy is a 30. You have to be trained to do it. So, not just any Joe Blow can do it. But to give you some frame of reference, John Wayne Gacy was, of course, in the mid 30s. He was that clown at the parties and um, uh, all the social charm and things like that. But he was in the mid 30s. Jeffrey Dahmer was mid to higher range in the 30s, close to 40. But Ted Bundy, highest I've ever seen or heard of, was around a 39 of 40, 39 of 40. And so just to kind of some notes on parting there. Hope you enjoy the space. Thank you so much for being here. We'll get a part two scheduled and have some more interesting discussion here. But there are wolves out there in the world. Go out there and be safe. Hope you have a good weekend, and we'll catch you next time. And here's the genius Daniel Licht playing some more of the Dexter theme.
He's an Asian guy.